Hey, well, last thing, too, I want to say, Mike, and because I want to go back to Washington, too, but just one more thing on Seattle. Like, I don't know. I don't love the talk of missing the plays and the film doesn't lie by Pete Carroll there either. I don't. Again, I don't feel like I hear him talk about the defense that way. And maybe I don't listen to the full press conference all the time, but I also want to go, yeah, well, hey, the film doesn't lie. Yeah, he missed some throws. It's hard to get in a rhythm when you're by the Gatorade bottle all game long. All game long. All game long. Your defense stinks. The film doesn't lie there either, but I don't hear that conversation a lot there in Seattle because the defense is his baby. And I guess that annoys me a little bit about them, where they kind of just always sweep that under the rug, that aspect. Oh, yeah, your defense is always getting the ball moved on them, is always giving up first downs, is never getting off the field, is never letting Russell Wilson get on the field quickly and get back in a rhythm. So there's issues completely, across the board there. You said it too. The players, the defense. Other than Jamal Adams and Diggs at safety, and Bobby Wagner, there's not a lot to go around that you look at. There's not. There's just nothing there that you go, oh, wow, that's something they can build around. And there's just way too many holes across the board in Seattle.
And you mentioned Jamal Adams, and we know what a player he is.
Yeah.
We also know how badly he wants to win. That's a little bit of a tick situation before he has something to say about the current state of the Seahawks. And, he just got his contract this year. I think that we may be a year away from him starting to agitate. But once Wilson's gone, if that happens, depending upon who they replace him with and depending upon how this team does next year, depending upon whether or not there's a new coach, that's got to be on the table at some point. We don't know who makes that call in Seattle because it's basically corporate operated under the broader umbrella of the Paul Allen empire that his sister Jody inherited, and nobody really knows how involved she is with the team because Vulcan Incorporated manages everything. It's not as engaged of a process as it is with other teams where it's kind of like the family business and it's their only reason for doing anything. This is a huge financial empire that the Seahawks are part of. So I don't know how much of this even lands on anyone's radar screen.
Right.
But if it does, yeah, we could see major changes in Seattle next year.
Yeah, it seems like it just when I think, gauging the temperature of the room a little bit, it does feel like, there's that sense up there in Seattle that anything could happen here after the year, the way it's going, the way Pete's age, Pete Carroll's age, the lack of talent on the team right now. And I think the bad thing, too, is, because there's lack of creative scheme and there's issues across the board, they make some of their best investments not look good because they're not good, so they have to put more pressure on them. First off, we talked about the two receivers. They can't get on the ball. Russell Wilson. So there's the schematical issues there. They're not great up front and can't run, so they can't really show you everything DK, Metcalf, and Lockett and Russell Wilson have to offer, in my opinion. Defensive side, kind of the same thing. Jamal Adams is still really damn good. Yeah, he gives up some plays. But I'll go back to the thing you've heard me say before sometimes. He's so good and they're so bad in so many areas. They ask him to do things that other safeties just simply don't get asked to do in the NFL. And then he doesn't look good, and now they get crap about, well, why did you trade for Jamal Adams and give him all this money? He's not as good as you said. And I want to go, well, no, he's actually still really good. It's just like they're so not good. They got to ask him to do things that, that nobody gets asked to do at the safety position in football. He's covering receivers, covering the tight end, blitzing, stop the run game. They have him trying to do everything, so he's going to make some mistakes sometimes and not look as good as he really is.
One more point I want to make. You mentioned Pete Carroll's age. I don't think that age should be an issue because look at Bill Belichick.
Yeah, that's right. I'm with you there. I'm with you.
I don't know what the explanation is.
Right.
But age has never been an issue for Pete Carroll before. I don't know what it is. And, we talk about other coaches who have won Super Bowls like a Mike Tomlin and say if he would be fired by Pittsburgh, boom, he'd have a job the next day. I'm curious if Pete Carroll would be out in Seattle, what would happen next? Because I don't think he'd have a job the next day based on the way it's gone in recent years. Although they were 12-4 last year. I don't know what would happen if this is the final act in Seattle for Pete Carroll. I just don't know. but we would
Fair
have to
question.
see. But I'm not. You look, we see people in today's society highly functioning into their 70s and 80s. So I don't want to attribute it.
Yeah,
to
he's
age.
still running down the sidelines. You're right.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. No
Yeah.
doubt.
So,
I don't mean that either. I guess I just mean he's up there in age. The team looks like it needs an overhaul. And I guess I'm a little bit like, does he really want to be there for the next 5 or 6 years as they kind of rebuild a team again? I guess that's where I meant. You're right. I don't mean to disrespect
Why would anybody who's
Yeah.
been part of the decade of greatness want to hang around if it's going to take 5 years to turn it around? I think it makes sense for everybody in that point, if it happens, to say,
See ya.
we're moving on. All right.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.